live. Well, I'm live. Leslie's in Dallas. I'm live from McDonald's in Berryville, Arkansas. My husband and I are here actually, my mother-in-law is in the country, and the internet connection there is like dial-up. So McDonald's to the rescue. It is Think Tank Thursday for Trainertainment, and I'm so excited to invite my daughter, Leslie Standlee, to join us today. Leslie, and I know I'm going to sound like her mother, but by all rights, Leslie is a superstar. She has held a lot of really important positions in her lifetime. She came out of college and went into a big program at Bank of America and rose to the top very quickly and held a senior VP role, and has always worked in operations. Took a slight shift over to Southwest Airlines for a short period of time and went back into the banking world in a sales role. And so that was crazy. I as her mom, who never quite understood all that important operations things she was doing over there at the bank, I knew what she needed to do in sales. I was like, yay, I'm going to understand her life. And it was interesting because when Les said, Mom, I'm going to go apply for this job, it was exciting and interesting. And I thought, oh my gosh, my child doesn't have any experience in sales, except that's not really true, is it, Leslie? You know, so talk to us about that shift. I mean, you were hard at work, project managing, leading, and leadership in and of itself is a giant sales job, if you ask me. But so you did have some experience, but you shifted. And and I'm gonna be your mother one more time. She spent 1 year in the sales role, and now she's in the sales leadership role. So I'm not a bit surprised. Leslie, talk about the differences. Talk about how your operational experience has helped you in sales. Share a little bit.
Yeah. So as Mom said, I was in a lot of different roles at Bank of America, and probably the roles that I enjoyed the most were obviously the leadership roles and getting to coach folks, but also running big transformational programs. And so what we would have to do is I would have to go represent on behalf of my people what they needed to make their jobs better and their lives easier. We would pitch huge business cases, like 5-year, $100 million programs, where we would in turn have to give back some savings and those types of things. And so I felt like I had kind of the ingredients from a sales perspective to really be able to go into the gig. And then the second reason why it was appealing to me was it was a product I knew. It was a product I wanted to buy before I left the banking world. And so it was a very easy transition to go in and talk about it, because I could talk about it from the perspective of the seat that my buyers were in, the things that they struggled with that made their lives harder in their jobs today. So I would say, I mean, no matter what your job is, whether that's being a stay-at-home mom, whether that's running an operational team, or doing something else, there's always an aspect or an element of sales to your job, because you're convincing somebody your idea is a good one.
That's awesome. Well, and that's kind of a shameless segue that we didn't practice about the fact that when you say people, that you're always trying to, sell folks on your idea of getting it done a certain way, whether it's employees, your boss, your husband, your dad, whatever. That's that whole people buy from people concept. And lest anyone forget, let me just go for this. It just in case anybody has forgotten, I just published a book called People Buy From People. I'm looking for every opportunity to provide a shameless plug, Les. Hey, can you talk about the interview process? And Encina is the software enterprise company that you've gone to work for, and I love it that as the senior VP, you wanted to use their product. So it must have been very exciting to see this position come open. And I mean, you looked at this and it was sales, and you said, hey, I think I can do that. So how did you figure that out? And then can you talk about the interview? Can you help people who might be going to and experience in sales? How'd that interview work? And Why do you think you
Yeah,
got the
it's
job?
funny. I went to the interview kind of talking myself out of, I'm not taking this job. I work at Southwest Airlines. It's a great gig. One of the top companies to work for. I was rising there, enjoying my time there, and I was home, right? I was local. I knew with the sales gig, I'd have to get back on the road, and it'd be a different change. So I really kind of went in with the attitude of they've got to sell me on this position. So I think I asked, I think in preparing for an interview like that, the advice I would give is, number one, really make sure you understand what they are looking for, and from a skill set perspective, whether that's a cultural fit, whether that's your background or experience, or just maybe even how you might fit in with your customers on the other end of that. So find out, do as much research as you can. And I did that. I mean, I was lucky. I had some folks that I knew that already worked there. It was a product I had seen. I knew enough about it. And then the second thing I would say is don't be afraid to ask them hard questions, right? So in my experience, I knew I was going to be going back into banking. I knew what happened in 2008, and I know, there are things that happen kind of in economic factors all the time. So I asked them tough questions too. Well, what happens if we hit another crisis, another cycle? How does that apply to my job? And I think showing that I understood the environment, as well as that I had an interest in, how that would help me grow at that company, really went a long way too. And then play up your experience, right? Apply that to how that might translate into the sales process, whether you've read Mom's book and you understand that one, or you've got experience with another sales process, right? So play up how you've built relationships in the past to get to, a common solution. Play up how you've identified pain points, how you've really, made next steps happen, whether that's been in a project or program role and running a staff meeting, that type of thing. And then also really talk about how you've gotten a close, whether that's, your idea was approved and you moved forward in a project, you got a difficult employee back on the right track. There are a vast amount of experiences that you have regardless of your job that really apply to sales that I think we just, we don't know that inherently, or, and then you start talking about it and you apply it to the things, the processes and the things that are out there. And you're like, man, I'm selling something every day, every minute almost.
That's awesome. Well, and I was there as she prepared.
She was.
I was there. And I was scared. I was kind of scared for her because it wasn't ILS. I mean, we talked about that and I was like,
Yeah.
are you sure? Because we see people all the time who try to make that transition from operations to sales, and so many times they're really different skill sets, but I think the vast majority of your career has been spent in leadership. So I would love it if you could talk about how you're absolutely using I think about it in training and teaching and coaching. I think coaching is all about selling as well, because we're trying to get people to make changes, to improve, to grow. And if that's not a sales job, I don't know what it is. And so in leadership, you're absolutely leading. And so and I'll just shamelessly plug again, that Connect, because you laid that out beautifully, by the way, darling.
Yeah,
That Connect,
not playing. This is live TV.
Yeah.
I took improv classes, so I feel
Oh,
like.
there you go. That's good. So that Connect, the qualify, the asking the questions, the presenting, and I love the way you talked about in the interview. Like when you were presenting those solutions, Leslie, you weren't saying me. You were saying these are the results I got for the people I was serving, and that's what people want. People want to know what you can do for them, right? And then the close. That was pretty brilliant, daughter. So leadership. How do you get success? How do you, like, I guess the thing, I know when I'm interviewing people, why do people want to follow you? What is it that you do that helps people get on the bus?
I mean, I think the first thing that I do, just take a step back and like I'm in a new leadership role. I try to take 30 to 60 days to not really change anything and listen, right? Using my two ears instead of my one mouth. And sometimes it's hard for me to do because
you're my daughter.
for those of you that know that, I am related to her. Now I do have a little bit of Jerry in me, and he is much more introspective.
He's a little more laid back. Yes.
So I say that's kind of step one, is really try to hear, what's on their mind. What are the things that I can actually help them with and make an impact in a different time. And then from there, I kind of set a plan, right? I try to get them involved in the things that they want to learn about that maybe they haven't had the opportunity to before, but at the same time, play to their strengths. Make sure that they're working on the types of things that I know they're going to be successful at, so that they can get some wins. So when they're working on the things that are new for them, those risks won't feel, outweighed by not being able to get anything else done, right? So say that's a big part, is really trying to listen, make a connection. Look, I'm probably a boss that's maybe too close to some of my people and know what's going on in their lives and what's happening. But I think that's really important. I think it gains credibility. It helps them, be honest when something's going on at home or in their personal life, so that we can make arrangements and adjustments as needed. But at the same time, it also, by being open with who I am and myself, it allows them to kind of call me out when I need it too. So, which I appreciate. Some of the best folks that I've ever had have been the ones that aren't afraid to speak up and help me make adjustments as well too. So I'd say that trust and credibility and kind of going to bat for folks, and not being, I've had somebody tell me before, I'm not overly political, which might hurt me in the long run, raising up the ranks, and maybe why I don't work at a giant institution anymore. But at the same time, by choice, but at the same time, they appreciate that because there's an authenticity there, and they know that I'm going to go to bat for them.
That's awesome. Here's one that, man, if you've got the answer to this, maybe we could bottle it and then sell it in pill form. So this might be kind of a hard question. When you're not getting the results you want, and I guess that could be true in sales or in leadership, when you're not getting the results you want, what are your go-tos? If the team member's not performing, if a customer won't say yes, what are your go-tos?
I mean, I think first I try to dissect why that is, right? So help me with what are the true roadblocks? What's really getting in the way? Having a very honest conversation. So not to overgeneralize it, but again, I think that authenticity and that trust you built up to that helps those things come out. Then if there's a way that I can make a difference, whether it's removing that roadblock, getting them something else they need, a tool, an answer, or having a conversation with maybe a level up at that company, I asked for that. And
I gotta write that down. Say it again, Les. What's really getting in the way? What are the roadblocks?
What are the roadblocks? What's what are the things that would help you get past what we're facing right now, right? And I just think asking those questions in a way that doesn't feel like you're like, you're not doing your job, so why aren't you doing it? Getting into really what would help them move past those things, I think really makes a difference. And
it's a great way to ask it.
And I mean, I've gotten that before. I mean, I've had people say, I need training in XYZ, or you need to have a conversation with this executive, or we need to bring your CEO into this, meeting or dialogue. And it helps people get more specific instead of just like, well, I don't know why I'm not able to get it. I don't know why I can't move forward. So I'd say that's probably the biggest thing.
And when do you decide it's, you've had enough of those conversations? How many of those kinds of conversations do you have to have?
Look, I mean, I think it all depends on what you're trying to get done, right? If it's somebody who's development, I'm willing to have those conversations a lot more because that takes time for kind of growth and that type of thing. Obviously, if they're missing the mark or we have a performance issue, that gets built into some formal, actual reviews, and there's documentation and history on it. But again, we're willing to have more of a conversation there. If it's something, more customer related, go back and evaluate, all right, how's this impacting our ability to get other business? What's this doing to people's time as you pull them out for certain discussions if this isn't ever going to happen? And then you make the call kind of, try to use a little bit of art and a little bit of science, right? The facts on the numbers and the time. And then the art is around the level of exhaustion from kind of everybody around you.
From what it costs. Yeah, I know. Mary has our director of operations. She has a great a great saying, is the juice worth the squeeze?
Yeah.
And so that, and I think that comes with people, and sales, because if you're spending a bunch of great energy, if it's giving you energy, that's usually producing and growing. And if it's negative, it can take the life right out of you. So
for sure.
And the people that you love, right? Because you don't just tell people in your team, you tell the people you love, and all that kind of stuff too. So what's been most fun for you as you took on this sales role?
Well, I mean, I will tell you, the company that I'm working for has been really, really fun. We're young, we're growing. The people that we hire, we have just like a really great approach. It was like it took the best qualities of the two jobs I've had before and put them into one, right? We have such a culture that we hire the right people, but yet it's still a work hard kind of mentality. And so I'd say that has been really fun. Getting to use my experience, but then leave the bank. And I've told my customers not to even, and they appreciate that. So like getting to leverage, 13 years of, experience that I built credibility, but at the same time, and getting to actually help them. I think when you're in large institutions, a lot of times you kind of feel like you get lost, and buried in things. And so it's really been neat to see how what we're doing can make a real impact and a difference very quickly. And so that's been a lot of fun for me. And then, I think I, like you, Mom, really just enjoy the people part of it, the social part of it. It's a lot of fun. I had a lot of hesitancy about taking a job where I work, from home when I wasn't on the road, and here we are. But I find that the balance of having the autonomy on ownership of my schedule, along with really kind of hitting it hard when I am out with my customers, has been really, really fun for me. And so I don't feel like I've missed a beat, socially, and being able to do things with my family and my friends at home. We got to celebrate and see Paul McCartney last Friday, and
Paul McCartney.
And in my old life, I don't know, the way that my travel and things were dictated to me and at me, instead of kind of me getting to be at least somewhat in control. Obviously, it's up to my customers too, but I don't know that kind of stuff would get to happen on a whim.
Well, I know I'm just shocked, and that was one of the things that Leslie and I talked about. I mean, Leslie spent 13 years at the Bank of America, and the change to go over to Southwest Airlines, which was a great company and a great opportunity, it was like, ugh. Well, and she got to fly places for free, so it was a big deal. And one of the things, over the years, Leslie and I have had discussion about her coming and being the president at Entertainment one day and things like that. And one of the holdups was that you just didn't know about working at home. You didn't even feel like that was something that you would enjoy. And I've been amazed at how much you adapted very quickly, didn't you, Les? I love the flexibility of the home office. And
I think if I didn't get the in-person time like I do, it would be a struggle. It would feel pretty lonely for me. But because I have that balance, and I was 3 cities yesterday, if you count coming home, right? So it's kind of nice to be home and, get my work done, do things like this, get caught up, and get ready for the next one next week.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Hey, JB, is there anybody out there? I don't see the live feed on Facebook.
Yeah, at the beginning, Denise Killian, or
Denise.
may pronounce. She said, "Hi, ladies, teach us," and then. Vivian and Pam of our group are on.
Hang on just one second. Denise, if you're still out there, we would love to have you come on, because you moved from, you're like a rock star TV producer, moved to sales gal. So Denise, if you're still there, you're invited to Think Tank Thursday. We would love to have you. And we've got Pam and Vivian, you said, are out there, two of our fantastic coaches.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the name from both of our pasts, Michael Tominski, is on.
Mike. Look at my brilliant daughter, Mike.
And then my daughter's on also watching. So
She's brilliant as well. Hello, Miss Amanda. Well, hey, is there anything that, Jay, do you have a question? Amanda, Mike, Denise, Pam, Viv, anybody have a question for Leslie or for me from Think Tank Thursday? I think, Les, I love the advice that you've given us about how to sell the team member when you're not kind of getting the results that you need. That's awesome. Yes.
And Kim's here also. She just sent it here to remind me. The one thing I will say that for me anyway, and maybe you can elaborate on some more, Leslie, is the selling happens all the time. I know we talk about it all the time, and whether it's in leadership or talking to your significant other or your kids or whatever, it's all the sales process. So what are some of the really strong things that you can use from the sales process in leading your team?
Gosh, it's funny. I just got off of a call preparing for a meeting next week with kind of our go-to person at a customer to help us understand the audience. And, it was probably like I was, shining a bright light on him, giving him the nth degree, because I just was question after question about their business, about, what to expect for the people that are there. I mean, I didn't shy away from anything. I asked a ton of questions about, how will our product meet their need, of course, but then I also asked about, well, who are the detractors in the room? Who's really, proud of what they're building that are going to be who we have to win over? Tell me about the culture there. What will resonate? Should we talk about the partnership we have, or do they want to be more directive with the software company? How do we frame that without changing who we are and what we do together, but how do we frame that in a way that's going to be important to them? So I would say that is the biggest part, is just really trying to understand who's on the other side of that. I mean, I think that's the case with, your friends, your family, whoever you're interviewing to come work with you. When I'm interviewing people, I really appreciate when people ask me thoughtful questions and try to understand the company, who we are, what the team is like. That really sets you apart in getting a job with me. So I would say that is probably the most important part. It's a lot of times the longest part. You always have to keep your ears open, because they will say something else, or it'll be in a different setting where you hadn't expected. This happened this week. I had to leave town to go to another meeting, but my members of our team stayed behind, and they found out a lot of good information at dinner, and just kept their ears open that I was able to, leverage and use and be able to take forward. So I would say it's you asking those questions, but it's also the power of the team and how you're interacting with your customers, and kind of triangulating it from all angles and finding kind of who aligns best to the conversation at hand.
That's great, Les. That's great. If you think about Leslie, new Leslie, 20-something-year-old Leslie, because we deal with a whole lot of young leaders in our environment. Somebody who's really good on the floor, right, might rise through the ranks and either get moved in the sales office or get moved into management. And now they're managing people that may be even close to their same age. So you think about young Leslie, because I know you faced this when you very first went to work, because you rose quite quickly. What do you know today that you wished you would have known then that could have made things a little less challenging?
It's not all about me. I mean, I think I won't shy away from that. I mean,
wow. I did not know what you were going to say. That's interesting. So that's your assessment as you look back, is that you
I think so. I mean, I think as I've gotten older and more experience, I've understood how much more it's about the roles that everybody can play to make up the greater whole. I think when I was younger, I appreciated the people that we worked with, but it was like I took it personal when they weren't living up to my expectations, and then I might just take over so that things would get done, right? Or and that's hard to do instead of kind of coaching and guiding. And it's an interesting as I get folks that are younger, now that I am not 20, nowhere near 20 anymore.
That made me feel old. Thanks, Les.
But I find that interesting because the types of things that they ask, I'm like, I was in this, a long time ago. And so I think that's the piece of advice I would give is getting comfortable with you not really being in control of everything.
Yeah.
And the way that things reflect, your job is to reflect, what your team is doing to really win. And then, taking that time behind the scenes to coach them to get them up to the level, and realizing not everybody is going to produce and perform in the way that you do. So figure out where do they complement you, and you focus on the things you're good at and let them focus on the things that they're good at.
Well, that's brilliant.
Beth, we have another question. Pam Weatherford asked, how do you handle challenges where the sales department sells something that operationally can't be delivered?
Great question, Pam. That's a great question. Yeah.
So I guess I'll have to go back to when I was in more of an operational role. I think the first thing, obviously everybody wants to do what's right for the customer. And I think what people forget, I even see this in smaller organizations. Obviously in a big organization, it's easy to do this, right? It's their fault, blame, that type of thing. But I think what I would do as an operational leader is try to bring the facts to help people understand. What I found in my role, and again, even though I worked at a massive place, I think this happens even at small places, the two teams just don't talk to each other, and they didn't work together on what that total impact would be. And if you can make it to where the customer's at the center and not talk about it in the sense of, we're not going to be able to handle this, why did you do that? It becomes less personal and less about you, and it's really about the customer. So operationally, I would always try to show alternative ways, right? So not a no, but a yes, but this is how we need to solve for it, but also do that in a way with facts and how it ultimately related back to the customer, right? So if you sell them this, it's going to put a delay on funding by 4 days. If we do it this way and they can make this one tweak, we can do this in 1 day. Which option would you like, right? And so again, I think those are the conversations you need to have. Also, what I have seen that's really cool in where I'm working and just how we partner across is, as a salesperson, I really try to bring in, and this is expected of us, our product team and our services team is an understanding of what's possible for the customer too. And so we have a mantra of really making sure we're working together and bringing things back on a feedback loop, and really putting that back into what we can do in the future.
That's neat. Y'all have a strategy, and we've talked about this at Trainertainment too in our own sales process, about once we get a client, if we're bringing somebody into a sales coaching product or a business coaching product, that it's really a great idea to get the coach involved and to get operations involved, potentially even before anybody signs any papers and begins to make commitments to each other. So
Yep.
that's very interesting, because I can tell you, as you were talking and I was hearing Pam's question and I'm listening to your answer, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, operations is so factual, and you've helped me a lot in that way over the years, because what sales is hopeful, and sales sees everything as a great idea, and our goal is always to help. I think great selling is about helping, and so if it's something the customer, if the customer has a great idea and it's not something we have, man, I quickly, to the, complexity of our, my operations team's like, she did what? I want to figure it out. And so I love it. I love it that I'm sure your people love it too, that you've got that a little bit better balance. And I'm very aware operationally that things have to be delivered, but I think I think my sales mind is more normal about what sales can do at times, is we just have this belief and this hope, like, gosh, that sounds great. Yes, of course we can do that. And then operations like, what the heck? And so I like what you said. Yeah. We can, and it's going to delay. for 4 weeks, and it really has to cost X amount of money more.
Yeah, I mean, there's always an option. There's always a way to be creative. So
Yeah, I love it. I love it. I love it. I never said no to you much, did I?
well,
Yeah, no, I didn't. My mother said when Leslie was about 4, my mom, do you remember Grandma saying, "You give that child way too many options." But see, look where it's got you now.
Hey, Beth.
Yeah.
Emily Young said this duo could take over the world.
yeah,
Yes. Emily, we need you too. We make it a trio. We make it a trio. Well, this has been so much fun.
You can just call in with the baby and put
The
him up
baby,
there.
that's it. Yeah. This has been so much fun, and I could hog your time and take up everybody else's time all afternoon. I can't think anything more fun to do, Les, but Think Tank Thursday is not really supposed to be 2 or 3 hours. So unless you've got some powerful, powerful, lasting words of wisdom to leave us with, I'll give you the chance to have the last word. But I want to remind y'all, next week we're at Bowl Expo, and I was thinking we're just getting Think Tank Thursday started. Do we skip at the, because we're gonna be at the trade show? And no, we're not going to skip. Leslie gave me a great idea. We're going to be BPAA, Beth on the street. We're going to grab people right off the show floor, and we're going to have compelling questions. So if you're on today and you're coming to Bowl Expo, come on by. We'll put you on Think Tank Thursday. We're going to do it at the very start of the day because we'll be in Vegas. It'll be 11 a.m. there. So right at the beginning of the day, we'll start Think Tank Thursday. Jay, I think you've got a link. What's it called, Leslie? Tell me about this guy.
They smile after Billy Eichner on the street, so there'll probably be a lot of yelling and a lot of excitement. So get ready.
Well, good. Jay's going to put a link up there on Facebook. You can go see some of that. Les, take us out of here. Give us your final words of wisdom. If you were working with a new leader, a new salesperson, tell us what you wish you would have known right off the bat, that would have helped you be better in sales, and then just say anything you want. And thank you. I love you. Thank you for coming on. You're wonderful.
No pressure. So basically, say something as eloquent as like the Declaration of Independence.
That's it. Impress them.
No, I mean, I think I said it kind of along the way, right? If you're interested in going into sales or leadership, right, think about the things that are important to you, but important to the people around you. What do you want to do to help people grow? How do you want to connect with them? And really start to think about how that fits your style, right? I'm an extrovert, extreme extrovert, right? Related to Beth, right? You guys heard that already. So going out and talking to people and asking questions is easy for me. The listening part, right, is something I have to continue to work on. And I think that and being able to do that has allowed me to really kind of get deeper with folks and figure out what they want to do. I would say too, the advice I give to people that I work with, as well as I give to myself, even as a woman, I think I have to be reminded of this more, as well as when somebody's taking on something new, is don't be afraid to take on something that you don't know everything how to do, right? I had never specifically had a job in sales, and I did it. I took the risk because it was something that I felt like I had enough of the qualifications to be able to get out there and start to make a difference. But I knew that I had space to learn, and I had that humility to know that it would take time, and wasn't afraid to get in there and learn. So
you have a great coach.
And I have a great coach. But that's what I would say is don't be afraid to take the next job and grow into it. Ask questions, listen, find out, where your strengths lie across your team, whether it's with you directly or somebody else, and go do something great with that.
That's awesome, honey. Love you.
I love you too.
Yeah, great. And we love y'all. Thanks for those of you that joined us live. And if you're watching it afterwards, you can always connect with me at beth@trainertainment.net. Love to answer any questions. And oh yeah, if for any reason you haven't gotten your copy of People Buy From People, you can go get it on Amazon. And if I'm going to see you at Bowl Expo next week, we look forward to seeing you. Am I going to see you, Leslie, at Bowl Expo?
Not sure yet. Finalizing a trip. So the
right.
beauty of sales, but we got a big deal in the works. So.
All right. All right. Well, I understand. Okay. Love you guys.
Bye, everyone. Love you, Mom.
Thanks, team. Those of you that came.